No, that is absolutely fine. No problem there. I'm saying that you have appeared for the paper, right? You have qualified. The government, the university has acknowledged that. They have published, right? You are yet to receive. Acha. No, no problem. The university has published their result. They have published. And you have qualified. Aye. No, you cannot be an uncertainty. What if the case that you do not qualify? Then what will be the case? I'm not, God forbid, I'm just giving a condition from the mindset of the paper, the university or suppose UPSC. Then you should be appearing as graduate. In your interview and whenever you will be fulfilling the DAF, you can choose otherwise. That is still in the process. Now you do not know. I know you will qualify, you also know qualify. But until the result, suppose your, God forbid, your copies are lost. Then you cannot claim that. Anyways, and any other doubt? So you have filled up the form, na? Consult the notification. There is a specified date that before that you must be qualifying for it. I do not remember the notification, exact qualification. We have such team. You can mention. Acha. Ha. No. Definitely, yes. Finally, allowed. Nobody will be bothering you because there are certain stringent regulations regarding, I remember, the caste certificates and all. But in academic, there is significant amount of leverage. I know. Recently, the quality of education has also dipped. Previously, it was one of the good institutions of Telangana. Yes. What is the name of your college? Nizam College, all right. Acha. Brilliant. Osmania was established by 1917-18, if I remember, in the context of non-cooperation movement, yes. Acha. Very good. Acha. No, you do not need to collect the certificate now. That is fine. ये आपको एक welcome. Let's see. Acha, where were we? We are learning about the. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If you have online students as well, so we were learning about the socio-religious and reform movements. We are learning about the socio-religious and reform movements. Acha, we have discussed about the Hindu reform movements. Hindu reform movements. Again, we have learnt about the Islamic reform movements. Islamic reform movements. Then we have learnt about the there is the Parsi reform movements. Parsi reform movements. You are already aware about the Parsi reform movements. It was also asked in your mock, na? What is the name of the organization? Rahnumai Mazd-e-Ahsan. Mazd-e-Ahsan. Rahnumai Mazd-e-Ahsan, that means religious reform association. Religious reform association. Who were associated with it? By middle of 19th century, 1851. Who was associated with the establishment of the organization? We have Dadabhai Nauroji. Dadabhai Nauroji. We have Naroji Fardonji. Naroji Fardonji. S.S. Bengali. S.S. Bengali. And K.R. Kama. K.R. Kama. Right? You will remember them. K.R. Kama. Now you have to understand that the Parsi reform organizations, they were initially also facing problems regarding polygamy, polygamy. They were facing problems such as parda, again discrimination of women. But they overcame all their challenges. You need to remember there are different newspapers, Parsi reform newspapers as well. For example, you have one, you know about one newspaper. What is that? One newspaper is Rast Guftar. We have learned about it, right? Now another newspaper is, for example, Chabuk. Chabuk is another radical newspaper of the Parsis. Right? Right, so there are important newspapers associated with Parsi reform. One of the most prominent newspaper in this regard should be Rast Guftar, right? Rast Guftar, it means truth teller. Again a radical, again it is moderate in character. Please remember, it is moderate in character. Moderate in character. Moderate in the sense not conservative, not extreme radical. That means thereby they are more impactful in bringing change towards the behavior. For example, I am saying Brahmo Samaj was moderate radical. During Kesav Chandra Sen, Brahmo Samaj became extremely radical. Young Bengal, extremely radical. In contrast, Prarthana Samaj of Bombay, it was moderate. Thereby, Prarthana Samaj was more impactful in addressing the challenges of the mass. Understood? Now, Rast Guftar is a moderate in character. It means truth teller. Another newspaper can be Chabuk. Chabuk is radical in character. Radical in character. Ajay Shwati is asking, I have one doubt regarding application form. Unknowingly, I have ये application के बारे में ना मुझे कम knowledge है. अच्छा, you have a session regarding that. Brilliant. I believe that sir and everybody, they are way more competent than we are. मुझे notification पढ़े हुए कितने साल हो गए. I have a doubt regarding application form. Unknowingly, I have submitted रॉन्ग इन्फॉर्मेशन. ये OTR के बारे में मुझे भी प्रॉब्लम. एक स्टूडेंट का कोई कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट था तो वो गड़बड़ कर दिया, तो उसके बारे में मुझे बड़ा कम जानकारी है. लेकिन वो कर नहीं पा रहा था और मुझे भी हम लोग ये करे ही नहीं कभी वन टाइम रजिस्ट्रेशन. अभी तो आजकल वन टाइम रजिस्ट्रेशन होने लगा है, तो वो उसमें बोलता है कि वो चेंज नहीं हो रहा है एंड द स्टूडेंट्स आर पैनिकिंग. अच्छा, ये पॉसिबल है. अच्छा, टेल मी स्वाति, इफ यू कैन वंस अगेन री रजिस्टर एंड यू नो you are unable to edit it, see if you can discard and make a re-application, something like that. तो ऐसा होना चाहिए, बट बहुत जगह होता है ना, आधार ऐड कर दिया है, फ़ोन नंबर ऐड कर दिया, अब चेंज नहीं कर पा रहा। हाँ, अच्छा Swati, as we have the clarity that once you re-register, your previous data will be declared null and void, then it will be rejected. So you can make a fresh application. That is the best way. You go ahead. We have a session today that regarding all these clarity. So you can take more help in this regard, है ना? अच्छा, we have the newspapers such as Ras Goftar and Chabuk. Anyways, we have certain Sikh reform movements. We have learned about Sikh reform movements. We have learned, for example, about the Namdhari movement. We have learned about the Singh Sabha movement, and we have learned about the Akali movement, right? What does Akali mean? Again, these are very common. That means these are the traps for UPSC. They are rather on the easier side. You need to remember about the terminologies and their respective meanings. That is Akali, that means servants of God. Right. If you face further problem, our team will reach out to you. That means we'll try the best to help you out. Acha, Swati, apparently the mentor allocated to you, you can contact him or her, and we'll try to resolve your problem, no? So that is the Sikh reform movements. That means these are the different socio-religious reform movements. When we talk about religious reform movements, these are primarily Hindu, Islamic reform movements, Parsi reform movements, and Hindu, Sikh, Islamic, etc. And when we talk about social reforms, social reform movements, social reform movements, social reform movements we have discussed mostly regarding caste inequality or discrimination. That means mostly the practice of untouchability, right? Access to resources for depressed classes, etc. No? And further can be empowerment or upliftment of women. Empowerment or upliftment of women. Again, separately you try to read about them. When we talk about caste inequality or discrimination, there are particular movements we have enlisted. For example, the self-respect movement, for example, the SNDP movement, for example, the Justice Party, so on and so forth. Again, remember certain women reformers and reform organization. Can you give me some important names, female reformers, important women reformers that you can find out more about? Yes, number one, we can begin by Savitribai Phule. Savitri Bai Phule. Then, yes, Chalo Kasturba Gandhi, I think it is important and we will jot it down, but we are prioritizing Pandita Ramabai. Pandita Ramabai. Then Durgabai Deshmukh. It's an important name. Nonetheless, it is very important. No? Yes. No problem. No problem. Then Mehribai Tata. Mehribai Tata. Find out about them. They are powerful women who had a significant role in development of women. No? Then can be Margaret Cousins. Margaret Cousins. Then another other important names. Rajkumari Amrit Kaur will be also a powerful figure, definitely. Her, Shimla House, everything that was. Aruna Asaf Ali can be. She is referred to as the grand old woman. Dadabhai Nauroji is considered the grand old man. Aruna Asaf Ali is considered as grand old woman. So these are again Sarojini Naidu, again, and definitely. But their point is they are more towards social reform plus political activities in India. There are powerful women figures as well. So try to remember about them. We can remember Sarojini Naidu. Right, who was the first female chief minister of Uttar Pradesh? Again, a powerful leader. I'm myself missing out there. Sucheta Kriplani, absolutely correct. Sucheta Kriplani. Thank you, Sucheta Kriplani. Sucheta Kriplani. So these are again important, powerful female characters. Again, Amrit Kaur is a powerful name. One of the also members of the Constituent Assembly. That means she debated, her arguments are thoroughly presented while debating on the constitution of the country. Right, you will try to separately Google, learn about them, right, and learn some information. That is all about the socio-religious reform movement. Before we begin or continue, I would want to discuss about reformism and revivalism. Revivalism. It's a kind of cyclic journey, if I have to discuss. Again, in not all the case it is so, but generally orthodoxy. Here orthodoxy is in a negative connotation we have used. From there is a rejection or reaction to orthodoxy that leads to reformism. Often reformism leads to an offshoot of revivalism. And from revivalism, once again there is a tendency towards returning back to orthodoxy. Probably that will help you understand reformism and revivalism. Can you understand or explain what you think is reformism and what you think is revivalism? Again, these are kind of conceptual clarity required for prelims as well. Yes. Yes. All right. You have the clue for the answer, let me tell you that. We will do some polishing, but nonetheless, I sincerely believe that you have a general understanding of reformism and revivalism. Would you like to try? All right. Now you also have a general understanding of what is reformism and revivalism. That means I would want you to understand reformists and revivalists both are taking the help of ancient Indian scriptures or indigenous texts. There is no doubt there. Be it Raja Ram Mohan Rai, he is also taking help of the Upanishadic doctrine. Also, be it, suppose in this case, the Wahhabis, they consider the Qurans as the sacrosanct text. I mean to say that both reformists and revivalists are taking help of ancient scriptures, right? But while the reformists look at the ancient scriptures from the eyes of reasoning and rationality, revivalists consider these texts to be sacrosanct, that means inviolable. Please understand here, very important for you to understand, Arya Samajists, a offshoot of Arya Samajists will become revivalists. Dayananda Saraswati, where precisely he stood, you cannot particularly categorize him or brand him as a revivalist. From the ideas of Dayananda Saraswati came the idea of the Anglo-Vedic schools. That means to call Dayananda Saraswati to be a revivalist seemed to be an oversimplification. Again, Vivekananda upheld the traditions of Brahmanism. However, he did so at an environment where Hinduism, that is Brahmanism, was looked down upon by the Western world. His idea was to restore the lost glory and pride of India. However, some people with a narrow outlook interpreted the ideas of Swami Vivekananda towards reactionary tendencies that triggered a future Hindu nationalism. I hope you understood that. That means from reformism, from orthodoxy, the rejection was reformism. From reformism, a school was starting to consider we were the best. That means once again there is a tendency, further reactionary revivalism may lead to return back to orthodoxy. There is a famous statement of M.G. Ranade, whatever is dead, buried or burnt should remain dead, buried and burnt. There is no revival of the past. Ranade, his statement was that, what will you revive? Again, the same book, the Manusmriti, it is resulting in orthodoxy, it is resulting in reactionism, it is resulting in, that means what to accept and what not to accept. If I am taking the same book in its entirety, it is also, that means from the same scripture, Sati was justified at one point. And today we are also trying to question the authenticity, that means the validity of the practice of Sati. He said that maybe some of the books, some of the ideas have become redundant, an idea of the past. It is better to let them go and usher in the future, that means start everything from scratch. There are multiple opinions regarding that. All I intend to say is that the same book, but the point is, why did the reformists then look at ancient scriptures for changes in the society? That means, why did they use the ancient scriptures for socio-religious reforms? For the purpose of prelims, if there are successive statements, what will you answer? They could have not chosen, they could have only chosen Western European texts on the basis of science and scientific experiments, scientific temperament. But still, nonetheless, they wanted to reform, purge the Indian society, the religious customs and traditions using ancient scriptures. They answer, why? Why did they want to do so? It has proof regarding what? Number one, there is a sense of pride. There is a sense of belongingness associated with our ancient past. Our ancient scriptures denote who we are. It is better to also improve who we used to be, to present who we are and who are we going to be in the future. That is number one reason. Number two was definitely, it was, you tell me, the masses would respond to existing scriptures, and developments in these existing scriptures are completely something altogether new. A audience that is widely illiterate, widely unaware, ignorant society, they would respond to Bhagavad Gita or Mahabharata, or rather the works of Rousseau or Montesquieu. That is absolutely correct. That is also convenient. At the same time, it was also a matter of pride. You need to trace them. These are some difficult questions for your prelims, remember that. These are not factual, these are not factual per se, but they are on the basis of your conceptual clarity. You have to be in the search. If you have clarity on it, you will be performing better. Fine. Right. That is about the understanding of revivalism and reformism. That is all about the socio-religious and reform movements. It is again a very difficult, a bulky chapter. You need to remember, if I say International Parliament of Religion, who participated in it? Swami Vivekananda, and it was held in Chicago, and he upheld his understanding of modern Brahmanism, that is Advaitavad, his Advaita traditions. He wrote multiple volumes on Advaitavad tradition, and he is associated with the foundation of Ramakrishna Mission, right? It was his views of, that means the outcome of his teachings of Ramakrishna Paramhans, his spiritual teacher, right, from Dakshineshwar, Calcutta. So anyways, that is all about the information. You will, acha, by the way, you will try to add it with your understanding of ancient and medieval India. That means, acha, in your ancient and medieval India, you have learnt about, suppose, the Shraman tradition. That means the orthodox traditions, the heterodox tradition, you cover them. The orthodox traditions, that is, suppose, Samkhya, Yoga, Vaisheshika. Yes, the Indian philosophy is classified into Astika group and Nastika group. Nastik group, there are 62 schools. 4 among them, that is Ajivika, Charvak, Buddhism and Jainism. And in future, you can learn about the Bhagavatism traditions, you can learn about Bhakti movement, you can talk about the Sufi movements, right? The Bhakti traditions of southern India. So that is, you have to connect it with the developments of socio-religious reform movement in modern India, whatever you have done in ancient India. Na? That means there the goal, that means you will probably learn about the, that means whenever you will looking about a particular reformer or a reform activity, what will you consider? If I ask you a question regarding ancient and, that is, social and religious reform movements in ancient and medieval India, that is social, I just want you to make a comparative analysis, that is why you are indulging in it, or else there is no purpose. Socio-religious reform movements in ancient and medieval India. So here, what are your important areas of focus? Important areas? Yes, important areas of focus. Philosophy, name of the philosophy, right? Founder, and also important scholars, right? This is only the one. For example, in Buddhism, you need to be aware about important bodhisattvas, right? You need to be aware about some of the important factions. Look into state PSCs, how they are asking. They are asking as integrated deities who are Sarvastivadins. What is Sariputas? What is Vajrayana traditions? Who are the important scholars there? For example, can you help me with any scholars of Vajrayana sect of Buddhism? Bata paoge? Think about it. Any scholar of Vajrayana, that means vehicle, thunder vehicle. Vajrayana tradition. During the Palas, probably you might have heard. There is Santarakshita and Atish Dipankar. Santarakshita and... Hey, ab ye kya hai? There are 2 names. Number 1, Santarakshita. Number 2, Atish Dipankar. What are you talking about? No, I do not panic. I'm just asking. What are you talking about? Acha. Santarakshita and Atish Dipankar, they were sent to Tibet for the propagation. Again, if I talk about who was the propounder of Shunyavad. Nagarjuna, excellent. This is what we are looking for, right? Philosophy or founder, important scholars, key ideas, technical terms, right? Technical terms. Again, my focus should be path towards salvation. Path towards salvation. That means, what did they recommend? Suppose a simple term. Adi Shankara, what was his path towards salvation? See, what is path towards salvation? That means, path towards salvation can be bhakti, can be karma, can be jnana. For some, it can be yoga. For that means to separate the soul and the soul from the matter. Now the point is, there is knowledge, there is bhakti, there is karma. For example, Bhagavad Gita that talks about knowledge, talks about disinterested action, karma marg. Again, Adi Shankara, what was his recommendation? What is his path to salvation? Just 2 minutes lunga main. It was Gyan Marg. He talked about knowledge to be the path towards salvation. Ramanuj, you are from Telangana. What is the path towards salvation as recommended? Statue of Equality. It was bhakti. It was bhakti, devotion. So that means you will try to look into it, no problem. Now if you are finding a name in the prelims or in the current events, you talk about again, I feel Thiruvalluvar is going to be important in this year's prelims. Thirukkural. What is the book all about? What is the content of Thirukkural? It is an example of Sangam literature, yes, and it is a book on Tamil maxims. It is a very famous book in Tamil Nadu. Again, the way with due diligence you read Bhagavad Gita, there is also a deep reverence towards the Thirukkural. Thirukkural is, you can quote it in your essay as well. It is a beautiful book and it was translated by a Christian missionary. You can have the copy if you so want. Acha, all right. So again, you will remember that for your paper. Right, so again, path towards salvation and also important books, important literature. Literature. And also Saguna or Nirguna tradition. Saguna, that means in this case, there can be worship with form and worship without form. So either they are Sagun tradition or they are Nirgun tradition. There are beautiful observations. For example, Tulsidas, he talked about Saguna and Nirguna are one and the same. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was worshipping with form, Saguna tradition. Nanak was Nirgun. So that there can be statements in your prelims. You will be in the lookout, na? No problem. Whenever you will be looking at that, you will look for these key highlights. Let us look at the developments of socio-religious reform movements in modern India. Right? Please scribble कर लो एक बार, है ना? ताकि पढ़ते वक्त जो है you are more alert while collecting information. Shall we move on? Done? Now there is, suppose the socio-religious reform movement. Socio-religious reform movements in socio-religious reform movements in modern India. Socio-religious reform movements in modern India, right? What are the key highlights? Name of institution or organization. Institution or organization. Founder. Also key associates. That means you need to understand, though Prarthana Samaj, the founder is Atmarang Pandurang, M.G. Ranade is not the founding member. Though Ranade played a critical role in the later times. This means key associate. This is the trap. इसी के आधार पे तुम लोग नोट्स बनाओगे. For example, Brahmo Samaj. The founding members is Ram Mohan Roy, but definitely not Keshav Chandra Sen, though he will play a critical role in the later point. For example, Dayanand Saraswati, founder of Arya Samaj, though in the later period, Lala Hansraj will play a critical role in it. Fine. Then important book or journal, if any, right? Journal. Key achievements. On what lines? Namely, legal reform, development in language or literature, language and literature, for example, education, etc. For example, you will remember the association of Jyotiba Phule in women education. You will learn about the Vedant college. Who established the Vedant college? Ram Mohan Roy. Right. These are so far it has not been asked. However, with multiple reading, you will be getting key highlights there. No? If I ask you who was the father of Marathi journalism, early answer. Balshastri Jambekar, right? And his newspaper was Darpan. Another newspaper of Balshastri Jambekar, Digdarshan. In our last class, that is the brief thing you need to do. You are already doing great. You do just a fragment more. That means you will be closer towards, maybe all the observations are going to be important for your paper. Maybe they are not. For example, I remember a couple of years back in our foundation, we generally always discuss about the origin of the customs and traditions of sati. I would like to discuss that. Achha, these are the key highlights, right? Here, see, we are not looking at path towards salvation. That means salvation was not the solution in the modern age. That means as we are materially becoming prosperous, we are industrializing. Our ultimate goal is not to end the cycle of life. We are preferring life itself. Again, among the important bhakti leaders who emphasized upon the present life rather than afterlife, who emphasized that present life is also very precious. All of them wanted to break the cycle of life. If I argue, Mahayana Buddhists, that means the Bodhisattvas, preferred the present life over the afterlife. The concept of Bodhisattva, that means they delay their salvation in the present life in order to help others achieve salvation. That is why we argue that Bodhisattvas, they preferred the present life over the after one. For example, Tukaram, a very important bhakti saint, he preferred the present life over the afterlife. That means some of the basic information, again, who merged the two ideas of Saguna and Nirguna tradition of bhakti, that is Tulsidas. Right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu promoted the Saguna tradition, Krishna Prem. Mirabai, Saguna tradition of Buddhism. Saguna tradition of Brahmanism. Again, Kabir, Nirgun, the Bhakti tradition. Again, Nanak, Nirgun. So again, these are some of the classifications you can remember. These kind of classifications are not generally applicable to the developments of modern India. Alright. So this is how things are happening. Na? For example, you need to remember who is associated with abolition of slavery in India. Who is associated with abolition of slavery in India? स्लेवरी तो बाकायदा मुगल के दौरान चलते हैं. सती के बारे में सोच रही होगी. यू थिंकिंग अबाउट सती. Even then Akbar allowed, because it was a religious question. He abolished pilgrimage tax. He abolished jizya. Again, नहीं, थोड़ा सा clarity चाहिए. I will discuss sati. No problem, I will share, don't worry. Yes. You're thinking about sati. I'm saying slavery. Don't think about sati now. I will discuss, no problem. I will discuss sati. No idea? Remember this story then. See, slavery was a very profitable trade, right? I will cover certain information with regard to world history as well. Slavery is a very profitable business. Indian slaves are taken everywhere. Indian slaves have huge demand in Africa, in South Asia, Southeast Asia, Caribbean islands, also African slaves. The Dutch actually institutionalized the slave trade. Before that, it also existed. Now, the slaves, elaborate trade system is also happening. The Portuguese, they will establish control in India. They will also carry out a very lucrative, profitable slave trade using Indian slaves. The British also carried forward huge profit. The Dutch carried forward. The point is, in the year 1833, 1833, in Britain, slavery was abolished. Remember that. Did I say it was abolished in India? No. Why? Because India was under company rule and not crown rule. Right? I am saying that. Listen to the story as well, Ashish. See, number one, I am saying that slavery was abolished in Britain in the year 1833. Because India was not under crown rule, that means it was under colonial regime, it was not under imperial regime. Thereby, it did not reflect immediately in India. Though, if I ask you, when was the recommendation towards abolition of slavery in India? The answer will be Charter Act of 1833. In Charter Act of 1833, as early as Charter Act of 1833, because in Britain slavery is abolished, they agreed for, that means India should take steps in the right direction towards abolishing of slavery in India. यहाँ तक आया समझ में? Exactly 10 years later, in 1843, slavery was abolished in India. Exactly 10 years. In Britain कब abolish होता है? 1833. India में कब होता है? 10 years after, that is 1843. Understood? Now, who was the Governor General at that point? Ellenborough. Very good. याद हो गया. Excellent. What is special about 1843? What else do you know? What else happened in 1843? Ashish, you are absolutely right. Can you help me out? What else happened exactly in 1843? It is Ashish or Ashish, I do not know. Tell me, if you know why 1843 was special on account of another reason, what should it be? Tell me. That is the Anglo-Sindh War followed by annexation of Sindh. 1843, that is the Anglo-Sindh War followed by the annexation of Sindh. Now the point is, ye yaad rahega. Now understand. I am saying that after 1843, slavery is abolished, but you need a lot of cheap labor. How do you manage the labor? By means of a system known as indentured labor system. Indentured labor system. What does it mean? Contract laborer. Understood? That means the people, that means migrants, laborers will be signing a contract and they will be going on for a couple of years. That means a fixed time period at a fixed salary. They will be extremely exploited. I am saying that under slavery, the condition of the slaves were better, or under indentured labor system, the condition of the labor was better. The condition of slaves under the institution of slavery was far better than the laborers under indentured labor system. Why? These are very, very conceptual questions. That means these are UPSC is presently very much interested in these directions. Tell me why. That means these are off-putting, na? Yesterday, वो बच्चा पूछ रहा था, he was asking that in number of books it is written that Milind Panho is authored by Nagarjuna. It is not correct. UPSC in the recent times, unfortunately or rather fortunately, they are looking for conceptual clarity. They are looking for those who have the right information. All right. देखो, you are very close to the answer, but again, I need that pinpoint, exact where you want to hit. Under institution of slavery, for the slaves? Who is ultimately responsible for the health and well-being of the slaves? Slave owners. In endangered labor system, is anybody accountable? No. This is the only reason, remember that. Institution of slavery, the condition of slaves were better off as the well-being, health and well-being of the slaves. The slave owners were responsible for it. In the case of indentured labor system, the exploitation was way more. Remember that. अब इसके खिलाफ किसने आवाज उठाया था? Who raised his voice for the concerns of the indentured labor system? Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. He will go to South Africa for practice. He will learn Telugu, Tamil, all the regional languages, the people, immigrants coming from UP, Bihar, all these people. And they were in close contact. Gandhiji learned about the true beauty of the country. It is argued that in his works there is no slightest bias on the lines of language, race, ethnicity, caste, creed, and so on. He will learn more about India abroad than living in India. His India was way more limited where he was from Gujarat. That is erstwhile Bombay Presidency. He learned about the flavor of India while he stayed abroad. And he also, when he arrived in India permanently in 1915, his first political excursion, please remember, his first spiritual excursion was the Sabarmati Ashram. His first political excursion was to demand the abolition of indentured labor system. However, no satyagraha was launched. It was asked in your prelims. He set an ultimatum. Even before that, the government itself abolished the system of indentured labor system. Thereby, you do not know about any satyagraha that was launched. I will discuss more about it, not here. So that is about the institution of slavery. Understood? Who was the one responsible for abolition of human sacrifice? Ashish, what do you think? And the rest of the online students, if you are present, who is associated with abolition of human sacrifice? And try not to use internet. Google is right in front of you. अच्छा नेट पे देख के ही बताओ, कोई बात नहीं, एटलीस्ट यू विल, कोई बात नहीं, गो अहेड. अरे तुम लोग सीखोगे तो कम से कम. हार्ड इंज एसोसिएटेड विद द एबॉलिशन ऑफ, पहले बता दिया मैंने, हार्ड इंज. नाउ नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, who is associated with these are very rather off-putting questions. You are only aware about who abolished sati. I can make it tough by saying that under which provision sati was abolished in India. If Benting was, then how can you say? You're thinking about Video Remarriage Act. That is Regulation Act of 1829. In 1830 it was abolished in Bombay and Madras. It started with Bengal Presidency, right? Now who is associated with suppression of Thuggi? Suppression of Thuggi. Thuggi, who are Thuggis basically? Anybody who can answer? Who are the Thuggis? Achha, Thuggis were robbers, as simple as that. They were looting and plundering and also killing the passerbys. And they were practicing human sacrifice. They were also, worshippers of Durga and Kali. So Thuggi, the suppression was done by Sleeman during the period of Benting. Again, female infanticide, a number of things were done. Satyajit, you are writing Wellesley stopped human sacrifice. Why do you think so? But देख भी लो internet में, है ना? Find more about it. अच्छा, तो क्या बता रहा था? Yes, so these are some of the major changes. For suppose we talk about institution of sati. If I say, what is the first conclusive evidence of sati? That means for sure sati was happening from this period. What is the, that means, or rather, what is the first archaeological evidences of sati? First archaeological evidence. Let me be more precise. What is the first inscriptional evidence of sati? What is the first inscriptional evidence? देखो क्यों मैं बता रहा हूँ तो बताओ तो जरा. First literary evidence, it cannot be true. That means and may subject to debate, because scriptures were written in palm leaves and periodically were being written. That means there is a fair possibility in a future time, if it is something is added, you will never be able to distinguish that. Thereby, from a literary source of information, you cannot ascertain that from this period. In the Vedic literature, we have the reference to sati, please remember that. In Sangam literature, we have the evidence of sati, but they are again maybe later editions. For example, in your ancient Indian classes, probably you have been made aware that institution of Varna, it is not the original part of the Vedic texts. Again, it is a part added in the 10th mandal of the Purusha Sukta, a last chapter. The original part of the Rig Vedic text, it is 2nd to 7th volume, that is the original text of the Vedas. That is Rig Veda Samhita. That means the institution of Varna, that is definitely a later edition. Similarly, conclusive inscriptional evidence of sati, that is Iran inscription, MP, ERAN, that is 5th century CE, early 6th century ऐसे, around 512 CE. So that means 5th century, 6th century CE, early 6th century CE. That is the earliest inscriptional evidence, that is contemporary to the Guptas. Understood? From then, one of the earliest foreign texts, again accounts of Alexander, they talk about practice of sati, please remember that. Another Arabic text that talks about sati, that is Chachnama. Chachnama, who is the author of Chachnama? We do not know. Chachnama was translated, it is written in originally Arabic, it was translated in Persian by Al-Kufi. It was translated by Al-Kufi, but he was not the original author, to not get confused. No? Chachnama is of unknown authorship. It was written in Arabic language, Arabic text. It talks about the Arab conquest of Sindh in the beginning of 8th century CE, that is 712 CE. That is a conflict between Dahir and the Bin Qasim. That is the content of Chachnama. That also talks about sati. These are important texts, no? Now, which governor general, that is, which European officer were responsible for the abolition of sati, one of the earliest times? William Bentinck, that is true, but I am saying European. Bentinck is also European, but definitely not the first. Albuquerque. Hall में वही तो तुम्हें समझना है. That means I can change the answer immediately by making modifications in the thesis statement of the question. That is always the point I am highlighting. Despite the fact you will be too aware about the answer, I can successfully confuse you, or I can overexcite you or create a deterrence in mind of you, just by making the necessary modifications to the existing thesis statement. I can definitely confuse you. You have to be in the lookout that if you are too excited, too happy, you will probably make an error. If you are too scared, you will also probably make an error. You have to be rather dutiful, that means diligent, disinterested while choosing the right option. Right? Speed, temperament, you have to balance everything, and then you have to take the action. Fair enough? That means according to the question, modulations of the thesis statement, the options or the answer can definitely change. That means your utmost priority in such cases will always be trying to understand the paper setter's mindset. What is the paper setter looking for from you while you are entertaining that particular question? I hope you are getting that. Understood? Now, there is William Bentinck, finally Regulation Act of 17, that is the 1829, that is abolition of sati in India. Followed by, it will be once again continued. Acha, by the way, what is the justification of sati? Let me discuss that. You will today find out more about it. I will give you certain texts. Acha, there are a number of law books that will result in understanding of Indian customs, traditions, culture better. Fine. Now, when the Europeans arrived in India, they found that different communities, their laws are also very different. Please understand, rule of law and equality before law. Also, the idea such as equal protection from law, the uniformity of law. It is a Western idea. Indian laws were specific to different religions. For example, the Muslims were tried, that means the legal binding documents were the Holy Quran, again Hadith or Hadith, the messages of the Prophet Muhammad. You're jumping forward. First where it is, what was he saying? The Islamic laws. As per Holy Quran, it can be as per Hadith. Quran is the messages from God itself, through the messenger. Hadith is the messages of the Prophet. Then there is the Sharia, unwritten laws. Apart from then, there are customs, traditions known as Qiyas and Ijma. You can remember the classifications of these texts. Again, browse karo. I am regularly looking at how or what would I have done if I was the paper setter to discuss more. Today I was browsing through, that means today I was about to lecture you on revolt of 1857. I just opened the 12th standard NCERT and I was looking at different key terms. And all of a sudden I found Azamgarh Declaration. Definitely Azamgarh Declaration with regard to modern India refers to. It can be a very valid question. Now, while browsing, I went to a chapter of Sufism. I learned that Sufism is a word coined in the 19th century. Originally in Islamic tradition, it was known as Tasawwuf. And number of texts talk about the Sufi doctrines, for example, Tazkiras, Makhtubat, Malfuzat, etc., memoirs. So they are, simply I can make a question. And Tazkura, the following are Sufi literature or Islamic, on Islamic doctrine, literature on Islamic doctrine. So simply a question can be formed, you will be in lookout for the same. Understood? Now, that is Islamic laws. Brahminical laws, again, Halhed was responsible during the period of Warren Hastings. You are absolutely right. It was that period, that streamlining, that means Hindu and the Islamic laws were reinterpreted, codified, a code of Gentoo laws, Manusmriti. Right, the translation activities were done, but the point is, still there were regional flavor. Laws were regional in character. Dekho, I am saying that often in today's time, very carefully you need to listen to this. We often attribute sati with invasions from northwest. We generally try to say that because of the influx of barbarian raiders, the women upon the death of the husband were also burned alongside. This is the institution and the practice of sati. That means sati should be rather dominant in western part of the Indian subcontinent. Understood? Now the problem is that in the beginning of 19th century, when the British were in India, that means especially in Bengal, they saw that the sati was very popular in Bengal. Now the invasions are way frequent in northwest as compared to Bengal. Bengal is free from rather invasions. Then why all of a sudden there is more and more sati in Bengal? What is the justification? On this basis, UPSC asked a question. This was given justification in Placer 2 partition. Tell me, this is another conceptual clarity I would want from your side. See, मुश्किल है, अचानक कैसे बता दोगे? See, there are two important texts. One is Daya Bhag. Another important text is Mitakshara. Daya Bhag, it is authored by Jimut Vahan. You will learn more about it, na? And Mitakshara is authored by Vigyaneshwar. You can also write VIG, so this is the European spelling we have followed. So these are the two texts. Daya Bhag was the Bengal school. And Mitakshara is North India. The legal traditions of remaining North India, something like that. So that is the Bengal school of law. Now if you talk about Daya Bhag text, it is a liberal and progressive text. Apparently women of Bengal enjoyed property rights. In the rest, if you follow the traditions of Mitakshara, they did not. Understood? That means here women did not enjoy property right. In Daya Bhag, women enjoyed property right. The point is, if women were enjoying the property rights after the death of the husband, the relatives, the rest of the family members had a problem. How to address the problem? Burn them alive. Thereby, because of progressiveness, women were burned alive. And rather, being regressive, women at least were not burned alive. So these are multiple facets. Very bizarre how things come across. I am saying that in modern Punjab and Haryana, the culture of dowry, female infanticide, it was originally never existed, but it became extremely depressing, especially due to the developments of Green Revolution. If you are aware about it, conventionally there is no culture. Women enjoy considerable upper hand in the societies of traditional societies of Punjab, Haryana, all these places. However, it became extremely discriminatory. Women, that means a tragic dip in the sex ratio, because again an outcome of Green Revolution. Can you explain why? Female? Female were soft. You have never met women then. Women soft? What are you saying? There is sense. मार खा जाएगा ये. You should be sorry. इसके नसीब में कुछ खराब है मुझे लगा. Yes. Jackpot. Very good. Precisely what is the case. Here there is a statement. अगर मतलब होता ना, if you talk about the developments of post 1970s, especially you compare Eastern India, modern Bihar, the more sun you have, the more sticks you have. That means goons. In contrast, there it became land consolidation for, again, for extensive farming, mechanization. You want your land not to be distributed among the ward, and you want only one son, and if you have one, it has to be a male. If you have female, that means land will go away. If you have male, the land will come to your house. That means sex selective abortions, and with the cheap ultrasonography, it became a fact reality for every household. Sex selective abortion. Number two, conventionally the culture of dowry was not as rampant in the societies of Punjab, Haryana. What will happen is that with prosperity under Green Revolution, there will be pompous celebrations. The first thing is in religious festivities, especially marriages, and also what was initiating as customary became compulsory, and women, that means girl, were considered as an economic burden. So thereby it took a rampant, ugly turn. So वैसे ही progressiveness in contemporary Bengal actually was a detrimental fact. Women, that means they were more victims of sati in Bengal region. Though that is the justification, please remember that. Understood? Now, suppose these are the stories, that means have a look out for it. For example, if I say Age of Consent Act of 1891, Age of Consent Act, that is suppose 1891, which were the newspapers who were responsible for the Age of Consent Act, that means the increase in the marriageable age for male as well as female. For example, Sudharak was a progressive newspaper. Sudharak associated with Ganesh Agarkar. They supported the act. For example, Bengali, right? Bengali of S.N. Banerjee. Bengali was another newspaper, a progressive newspaper who welcomed the legislative action, the development in law. But the point is, you have to remember, Maratha and Kesari, they supported the act or rejected the act. Again, a very unique observation, they rejected the act. Why? He was a Hindu Orthodox, all right. Excellent. This is one. Then that means, देखो ये सुनने में बहुत अतरंगी सा है. That means it looks rather odd, but you have to remember that is true. Bal Gangadhar Tilak rejected the Age of Consent Act, And why did so? Your first observation is right. He felt that the changes should be from within. Changes should be from the Indian society and not done from the top, administration above. So he rejected. Another reason. Deprive India how? You are thinking that you will make the reason along the way. It does not work that way. It does not. You have started the answer and you will build up the story and it does not work that way. See, the idea is that a British Act not accepted. British Act was accepted. The Age of Consent Act was definitely passed. But Tilak did not approve of it. He had a tussle with, for suppose, Sudharak of Ganesh Agarkar. Now, Bangavasi, another newspaper, he deprecated. That means it rejected the Age of Consent Act. But Bengali, the newspaper that welcomed the step, the British action to be a step in the right direction. The point being, he argued that the child marriages in India were symbolic in character. According to Tilak, the marriages were symbolic and were not consummated. They, once the ceremony was done, their respective children used to live in their own respective parents' house. Only upon reaching puberty, adolescence, they started staying together. That means Tilak argued that because of the British action, there will be possible illegal consummations. Because majority of the Indian masses are illiterate, and there is a possibility that they would think that now it is fine, and it will disturb the intention of the law. Also, he feared that in the fervor of anti-British struggle, women, young women, will be at the receiving end of extreme torture. Children, if they consummate, if they become early mothers, it will lead to infant mortality. It will lead to higher maternal mortality, ill fertility, health of the mother. So that means child marriage was no longer, not at all in any regard welcome. So these were the reasoning of Tilak. You have to remember that. Fine. All right. So these are about it. Remember them. And important newspapers of the socio-religious reformers, how they went around. For example, Widow Remarriage Act. What is the, who was associated with the Widow Remarriage Act? Dalhousie? But it will be passed during, it was proposed during Dalhousie, passed during Canning. Achha, second observation, which Indian social reformer was responsible for the Widow Remarriage Act? Yes? Once again? Veersalingam. Again, Veersalingam Pantulu. Achha, all right. It is regional. That means you are talking about the Madras presidency, right? It should be, again, we are talking about center there. Center means Calcutta here. That means yes? Yes. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Nonetheless, there are multiple figures from Bombay presidency. There were Vishnu Shastri Pandit, Dhondu Keshav Karve. These are powerful figures of Western India who pushed for widow remarriage. At least see the problem. I am saying that the step in the right direction. First, Swati, you are writing Savitribai Phule, you are not wrong. But rather than widow remarriage, they were focusing more on shelter homes for widows. The answer I am looking for here, Ashish, you are right, that is Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. The point is, because you are looking at the center, center at that point, Calcutta. Now, let me discuss once again another story. The Sati was abolished in 1829 and once again in Bombay and Madras presidency in 1830. Now, looking forward, women are not allowed to, by law, to burn. Female infanticide also stopped. Female infanticide, and also the women, that means upon birth they are registered. That means you cannot kill them anymore. Again, they were deposited in Sagar Islands. There is Ganga. Ganga Sagar Santan Visarjan. That means to offer your firstborn. If a couple did not used to have child, they used to offer prayers to their respective god and promise that once they have child, they will offer it to river because it was the grace of God. So that was, yes, we were very intelligent. So they were offered and that needed to be stopped. एक तो हुआ ऊपर से उसको डाल के आया. The point is these kind of bizarre customs has to be stopped. So these were done, but the point is what to do with the widows, what to do. They became a socio-economic burden upon the society, and the life of widows became better or worse? It became far worse. Women, the condition for some women, they preferred the momentary death rather than the decades of torture and lament. That means again the being burned alive. It is considered that the first most pain. That means the second being the pain of childbirth that a woman could endure. The pain that was extremely brutal. The narratives. Benting received 800 records, complaints. The women were burned alive, and extreme brutal narratives. I do not discuss to share that in the class. And young women, teenagers, they were burned alive, and the fathers, that means even from Orthodox fathers, they are losing their child. They constantly wrote letters, and again you need to remember that contemporary society were wanting to burn the women or wanting to stop the ill practice. But the contemporary mindset of the people. That means I am saying there is Raja Ram Mohan Roy, his newspaper is his newspaper was Samvad Kaumudi. Fine. Now his rival was Radhakant Deb. Radhakant Deb, his newspaper was Samachar Chandrika. I am saying that Samachar Chandrika was an orthodox newspaper. Samvad Kaumudi was a liberal newspaper, which had a further reader base, which was read by more people. Chandrika or Samvad Kaumudi? Samachar Chandrika. That means you need to understand people wanted the burning of the widows. That is the mindset of today. That means today's mindset. If some individual wants to bring back sati, the kind of rejection the person will be witnessing. Imagine Ram Mohan Roy faced the same problem. His own mother rejected him to be her own son. So that is the price people paid for socio-religious reforms. So ये बहुत सुनने में अजीब लगता है. It might be very odd to listen to. Again, there are multiple attempts to murder, threat Ishwar Chandra Vidya, all the people who are wanting this radical change. It came with a price. Now the point is, you cannot burn the women, you cannot drown the women, you cannot kill the women. These have been stopped. The point is what to do with the women. It is still a burden. Then Kulin polygamy became a case. Again, multiple marriages. The narratives were that they tried to solve the problem of, that means nearly 50 odd women, they were all teenagers. They were married to a very elderly or a dying man in that means in a clandestine affair. Ye hota kyun tha? Why was this thing happening? That means they were marrying these adolescent, that means very young kids with nearly dead or that means dying. In a number of cases, they used to die in the while taking the everything. That means, and still the marriage was silently carried forward. And why was it happening? The primary reason that the dead does not collect dowry. The major problem of women was the collection of dowry. The father were burdened. Thereby you marry them off, that means you are doing your moral duty, dharma. But the point is, you marrying immediately, you have dowries, then widows are kicked away or living their life outside. Extreme form of discrimination. Again, this is the world we have received. और discussion हम लोग नहीं करेंगे. It's a brief class for prelims. Again, if a shadow of a depressed class in Travancore, when Swami Vivekananda visited Travancore, he argued that it was the madhouse of lunatics, the kind of bizarre practice. Suppose a shadow. Again, if you read the writings of Mulk Raj Anand, is a book untouchable. Multiple literatures have been produced. If the shadow of an untouchable will fall upon the path of a Namudri, he will be persecuted. Extreme disastrous impacts, extreme torture, gruesome tortures were done upon, again, the questions of untouchability, questions of discrimination upon women and so on and so forth. So the point is, how did this solve the problem? That means there has to be an opportunity to a better life, don't you think? The widows deserve to lead a better life. Nobody was willing to answer that question. They wanted to stop it by introducing another law. right? They wanted to stop it by introducing, but was it the true solution? No. These are arguments when we talk about, again, it's the mains perspective, it is not prelims perspective. That means a closer examination. The socio-religious reform actually did it change? No. It took decades, it took centuries probably to have true change. Travancore, there are bizarre taxes, beard tax. अरे मल्टीपल टैक्स तुमने सुना नहीं है, कोई अलग बात है. मालाबार कोस्ट त्रावणकोर में देयर वाज द इनफेमस ब्रेस्ट टैक्स. The women, the frustrated woman everywhere because of her own anatomical qualities. That means qualifications. She chopped off her own breast and bled in front of the tax collector. And that started a revolt across the Travancore. And finally that horrible tax came into existence. She was ceased to exist, abolished. तो ऐसे ही बहुत सारे ये है. Temple Entry Bill, that is 1934. So British also, as usual, the divide and rule policy that used the discrimination of caste, discrimination of women. So they always tried to use it against one against the other. They used demonization, divide and rule theory. That was the outcome of Victorian imperialism. So anyways, the solution was proposed by Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar as Widow Remarriage Act. Dalhousie wanted for it. Widow Remarriage Act proposed in 1856, passed by Canning. But did it actually change the society? Answer is no. Nobody wanted to take the brickbat of the society by giving their son in marriage to a widow. Apparently widow were bringing bad luck, socially ostracized. So naturally nobody was willing to marry the widows. Now what is the solution? Vidyasagar had to give away his own son, and he was married to the first widow. And thereby, did it change the society? Answer is no. It is only a matter for you to remember. By the end of the century itself, or 50 saal mein, the marriages of widows were less than 20. So that is how, less than 20. Har saal itne shadiyan dekhte ho. And the end of the century, the record was marriages were less than 20. So that is the outcome. Again, by bringing in laws, is there any actual behavioral change? The answer is no. Understood? That is all about the socio-religious and reform movements. Aja, welcome. All right. All right. All right. You got the clarity. Even there, if you have any, we are fairly well-read people. If you have clarity in that regard, you seek any kind of clarity, we generally have these linkages. So I might be able to help you out. Fine. Even if you have any doubts in remembering any particular fact, either I will share a story or I'll give you mnemonics. A very fun way to remember that. Always remember, if you want to remember factual information, attach it with any personal story of yours. Human beings, we are emotional creatures. Associate it with your life story. You will be remembering that particular fact. Fine. अच्छा बताया था मुझे कि you are facing problems regarding governors and governor generals. I have collected couple of governors and governor generals. We will start from here. Yes. देखो, there are two terms. One is sub-feudalization of agriculture. Another is absentee landlordism. Sub-feudalization of agriculture and absentee landlordism. See, I choose not to discuss so much because we are landlordism. We are running out of time. Everything, also new concepts, generally very difficult for the students to grasp. It was on the basis of European understanding as well. The absentee landlordism was also visible in Britain. That means the Irish in particularly Ireland, these people were coming away. Yes, everywhere. Again, this is known as the Ricardian theory on economics. Under this theory, they argued that, again, complex theories. I do not know that if you are needing that or should I be discussing that. That means the more there is the profit at the disposal of the zamindar, there tends to be the emergence of intermediaries. Did you understand? That is the Ricardian theory on rent. That means the actual producing class, the farmers, and there is the land owning class, that is the zamindars. If there is more profit being generated at the hands at the disposal of the landlords. There tend to be emergence of a lot of intermediaries. That is the Ricardian theory on rent. The actual example is Bengal permanent settlement. That means that suppose there is land, who is the owner of the land? Zamindar. Now what does the Zamindar do? The Zamindar distributes the land among the Zamindars, among the peasants, cultivators. Understood? Now these cultivators, they submit their share of revenue in time. That means a kind of rent. Who is the absolute owner? The Zamindar. Now point is, Zamindar is having a lot of income. If there is a lot of income, what will he do? He will generally go to cities, not be looking after the agriculture directly. He will be investing in other areas of economy. In this case, going to Calcutta. But while going, either they will auction his tenure or rather distribute among his servants. That means a number of intermediaries are being organized. These intermediaries, whenever they will be managing enough profit for themselves, they would also want to go to the cities, appointing further fragmentation of the existing ownership. That is absentee landlordism. The landlord is absent in the actual area of operation. And sub-feudalization of Indian agriculture, that means a number of sub-feudal elements emerging within the fold of permanent settlement. I hope you understood that. समझ में आया? Shall we begin? See, we'll discuss और तो कोई clarity नहीं चाहिए. Fine? All right. Welcome. Now see, we will look at the governors, governor generals, governor generals and viceroys. I will not start with the viceroys because I need more time, or you will be bombarded with more information. Today we will hone our skills with certain important ones. For more details, that means if you want all the information, it is fairly done in your spectrum. You will find in the index towards the end. You will find all the necessary data. I have collected. Again, we are looking at if there is a question, and on the difficult side, you should be able to do so from the given notes. That means a kind of value addition. Already the information that is available at your disposal. Before we begin, we need to understand who is the first governor of Bengal. Our timeline will begin with the Battle of Plassey. I would request that you can produce this diagram in your copy as well. Some student told me that they are facing problem in this regard. Let's have a look. Battle of Plassey. Battle of Plassey. When was it fought? In the year 1757. What will happen immediately after? There is the first Robert Clive. Robert Clive as first governor of Bengal. First governor of Bengal. Now position of Bengal, if you look from 1757 onwards, this position will be evolved. That means the position that is governor of Bengal shall become Governor General of Bengal. There is the regulating act. Regulating act. There are certain important observations. Again, we are looking for timeline. Na? If you look at the internet, I found that Supreme Court was established by 1774. Again, the new NCRTs, they are writing that the Supreme Court was established in 1773. There are certain mismatch in information as well. Do remember, under the provisions of Regulating Act, there was Supreme Court. That means look for clues as well in the paper. Na? When at the end, I was looking at the important timeline prepared by the new NCRTs. It is categorically mentioned 1773 establishment of Supreme Court. Right. That means some brief time lag can be there. For example, the tenure of Krishnadeva Rai, In some book it is 1509 to 1529. In some book it is 1509 to 1530. If you read the MA papers, it is 1529. If you read the Tamil NCRTs, it is 1530. There are multiple opinions regarding the birth year of Buddha. Again, none of us, definitely I was not there when Buddha was born. Thereby it is very difficult to pinpoint the time period. We can have a ballpark understanding, but there can be no question regarding the birth year of Buddha. Do not get confused, because we do not have any data regarding that. No? Regulating Act of 1773. Then we have the first Governor General. First Governor General of Bengal. When we say Governor General, that means we say a lot of power. That means Governor General of Bengal, that means Madras and Bombay will be subordinated. Though there will be lack of communication, that means tussle. Immediately powers do not want to submit. In the later on developments, Pitt's India and subsequent developments, Bengal will be subordinating the rest. Initially there was a lot of confusion and confrontation. Who was the first? That is the position of Governor General of Bengal created. Who was the first Governor General of Bengal? Warren Hastings. Warren Hastings as the first Governor General of Bengal. All right. This is the Regulating Act of 1773. Let us proceed forward. All of you write it down. Done? Then we have the Charter Act of 1833. Charter Act of 1833. The position of Governor General of India created. Governor General of India created. The position of Governor General of India created. Understood? Who was the first one? William Bentinck. William Bentinck. First. Next observation. Very good. There is a catch. Let me see if you understand that. There is Government of India Act. Government of India Act 1858. Government of India Act of 1858. How to understand Government of India Act of 1858? Yes? Very good. The term is along the additional position of Viceroy. That means it did not evolve, it additionally supported by the position of Viceroy. Very good. That is Governor General of India. Governor General of India. Governor General of India was responsible for British provinces. Held the additional responsibility of Viceroy. Held the additional responsibility of Viceroy. That means who was the first Viceroy? Canning. Very good. Lord Canning. Lord generally means land baron और कुछ नहीं है. A land baron in Britain, that is known as Lord. Then you can choose not to. I read the writings of Ramchandra Guha. He categorically mentions Sayyid Ahmad Khan and not Sir Simon Khan. We do not mean any disrespect, please understand. We just following the traditions of free India. By following, it is our leader, and we do not want to follow the British tradition. That is, we have the abolition of titles, and thereby just doing justice to our constitution, we are not choosing to say sir. That is all. There is no disrespect. No? So you can choose to not to write. It is disrespect maybe. So that means Canning. Lord Canning, that is the first Viceroy. First Viceroy. Now, let's further complicate things. Who was the last Viceroy? Yes? Sure. Sure. Again, you will change the answer. My question is still simple. Who was the last Viceroy? You right now you changed Rajagopalachari. Sure. But you changed your answer. Acha, you did not. Acha, my apology. My mistake. What do you think? Mountbatten, all right. See, Indian Independence Act. Brilliant. Indian Independence Act. By Indian Independence Act, what will happen? Loss of paramountcy. That means Viceroy, the position of Viceroy ceased to exist. Thereby the last Viceroy should be Mountbatten. So here what do you need to know? The transition. So who will be the first or last Governor General of India under the British rule? Mountbatten. Who will be the last Viceroy? Mountbatten. If you are having confusion, you will write it down. है ना? Online students as well. That means Mountbatten remained during the partition and independence, na, in both the phases. That means he will be the last Governor General of independent India and the last Viceroy. He will also be the first Governor General of free India. I hope you understand. That is why it will continue. That means that is the condition. That is what, again, if paper setter wants to trap you, they can. That should be last Viceroy. Then last Governor General of British India. Of British India, right? Then naturally Mountbatten will be the first Governor General of independent India, right? First Indian Governor General, Sri Rajagopalachari. Who was the last Governor General? Sri Rajagopalachari. Followed by, there is another name, C. Rajagopalachari. Rajagopalachari. That is the last Governor General. Also first Indian Governor General. A couple of questions have been asked from this particular diagram itself. I believe that if a question is asked, you will not be making any wrong entry if you are aware about this diagram. We have tried to cover all the dimensions that can be there. Na? Write it down. Yes? I do not get the question. Why Rajagopalachari was chosen as the next? Not a valid question. I do not think so it will be asked. Acha, you are asking from any particular story? I am unaware of. I will not be able to share that story. Not to my recollection, any particular interesting development worth sharing. One thing I can discuss that was a very turbulent time, and we needed somebody who had patience to handle administration. You can also understand it is development of the 40s that leadership, that means the right choice for Indian leadership was there were lot of difficulties. You can understand there was an early death of Vallabhbhai Patel, again a prominent leader, though having in his own personal bias. That means again the source is the Good Boatman. It's a book written by Rajmohan Gandhi. It's a phenomenal document that will give you clarity on Gandhiji. So here the most logical candidate. Everybody were brilliant, I must tell you. The point is the right candidate at that point was definitely Jawaharlal Nehru. He was from north but deeply revered by the south. He had deep reverence towards the cultures of the south. He was a male, thereby also equally respected by women. He was a Brahmin who had deep regard for the depressed classes. So right, he was again very little bias in his political arena, and thereby even though he was a socialist, that means the capitalist felt safe under his ideas of socialism. His idea of socialism is today known as Fabianism. So again, these were the right choices for Jawaharlal Nehru. We have little idea as to what was happening. Again, it was a symbolic post. We are generally not asking the question regarding Gopalachari, we are asking more question regarding Nehru that I have shared. Understood? Right? So that is about the list. We will look at the handout, what we have prepared. एक बार देखोगे इसको तो यहाँ दिखाने का कोई sense नहीं बनता है. There is no point in showing it to you. It will be very bizarre lecture then. कहाँ गया, कैसे देखते हैं? Menu. Then एक काम करो ना, you take a small break. Better. You take a small break. We'll start after that. That means these are some of the information. You can choose to remember. ये आ गया होगा शायद. You will be shared very soon if you have not been shared so far. Right. So first we will start with Robert Clive. Just that means that our understanding is how a paper setter can be asking important questions, and also some of the students face it to be very difficult. Time period is 57-60. As a brief gap, 65 to 67. We have discussed that during 1760 he chose to return back to London for a while. J.Z. Holwell was the governor, followed by Henry Vansittart, etc., etc. That means he was absent between 60 and 65. That is all. And the political journey, 57 to 60, then 65 to 67. Right? Again, that is as governor. That is the tenure as a governor. He was present very early. Again, that is he participated in the first two Carnatic. First Carnatic War was 1746 to 48. Second Carnatic was 49 to 54. Now, career experienced a significant boost with the Siege of Arcot. Just remember Siege of Arcot. Siege of Arcot is 1751. Whatever information I have given, I have also justified them. That will come in handy for your prelims. No? Siege of Arcot 17. This Arcot is happening in first Carnatic, second Carnatic, third Carnatic. Tell me. It is happening during second Carnatic. It is happening during second Carnatic. बाद में एक बार connect करना. That means what are we looking for the present category of prospective civil servants? Accuracy. We are not एक ज़माना था 30 years from now. We are looking at particular year and particular whatever is happening. This time it is about if you have heard about it and you have searched them online. That means you have heard about UNESCO heritage site. You are aware about Brihadeshwara temple of Thanjore, and you are aware about Gangaikonda Choleshwara temple at Gangaikonda Cholapuram, or Darasuram in Darasuram. There is the Airavateshwara temple. These are three under UNESCO heritage site. If you go to Tamil Nadu State Tourism website, you will find necessary details that can be asked in your prelims. Simply go to the about section. Suppose you have a scheme, you have a website dedicated. Go to the FAQs, that is frequently asked questions. Again, if I am a paper setter, I will be, and in number of cases questions have been asked in this regard, in this manner. Again, you cover 50 schemes, 50 odd information, and then you accordingly move on. So here, what you will learn, probably do not, and you will be learning, that is the siege of Arcot. Then, during Second Carnatic War and 55, Clive was appointed Deputy Governor of Fort Saint David in Cuddalore. These are those information which is out in different important textbooks. They has been all copied from textbooks, none of them. I do not know Robert Clive in person, we have never met. These are important textbooks which have given important details, which I have carefully curated. If I am the paper setter, I will look at these statements from, that means all will be knowing about Clive, will not be probably knowing about siege of Arcot, or probably he was appointed as the Deputy Governor of Saint David. You must be aware, that means doing your set of research regarding Fort Saint David. What was the original name of Saint David? Devapattanam Fort, right? Previously a Maratha fort, right? It was taken over by the British. They purchased it via auction. Presided over British East India Company's victories at Battle of Plassey and Chinsura. Again, I have discussed about Battle of Bedara. That is the Anglo-Dutch war rivalry, right? So I have given the information regarding Chinsura, also known as Battle of Bedara or Bedara, also known as Hooghly. That is 1759. Right, during the 7 Years' War, fought between, it was a Dutch outpost, fought between English and the Dutch, that's it. Right, that means you will not be probably aware about Battle of Bedara. Here you will be noting that Plassey fought the battle, and also East India Company won, that means English won over the Dutch. Fine, he participated in the Treaty of Allahabad, establishment of dual system in Bengal. Participated in First to Carnatic, again attempts for impeachment, massive corruption. But though he will be acquitted, he will later commit suicide. Then is Warren Hastings. I have jumped forward, see. Again, if you want information, it is fairly evident, present. I have targeted 5 to 6 important ones and given more information in their regard. Warren Hastings, there is another Hastings, Lord Hastings. I have also covered that for your clarity. Warren Hastings, 1772 to 73. Why there is a gap? Because Regulating Act of 1773, Governor of Bengal will also become the Governor General of Bengal. Right, becomes a Regulating Act, he becomes, we have mentioned that during his tenure, dual system was abolished. Associated with Second Anglo-Mysore War. Do you remember the Second Anglo-Mysore War? What is the time period? 1780 to 84. 1780 to 84. If I say he was associated with First Anglo-Maratha War, correct statement, false statement? I am saying that Warren Hastings participated, or he was associated, he was contemporary to First Anglo-Maratha War. Correct statement, false statement? Correct. Why do you think that? What is the time period of First Anglo-Maratha War? 1775 to 1782. Now once again, would you like to change your answer? Acha, you did not get. No problem. Dekho ek baar time period dekho. Closely monitor the time period, you have a general understanding from 72 to 85. I say First Anglo-Maratha War fought between 1775 and 1782. Was he contemporary? Yes. That means you do not remember, suppose I do not want to add to your burden. Remember, he was contemporary to First Anglo-Mysore, Second Anglo-Mysore War and First Anglo-Maratha War. Just remember that. Fine, comfortable? Then he entered in the Treaty of Mangalore. Mangalore concluded the Second Anglo-Mysore War. What was the treaty after First Anglo-Maratha War? No problem. I know that it is difficult for the students. I do not want to add to the burden as well. But here I need to recapitulate. It is unfortunately my goal. I want you to be comfortable with the number of wars and treaties. Think about it. Again, what do you know about basin? Basin was originally taken over by the Portuguese. From the Portuguese, the Marathas took over by 1739. And from the Marathas, basin will be also taken over by the British later. Treaty of Basin 1802. Salbai. When was the Treaty of Salbai signed? 1782. 1782. No problem. You will remember it now. Hai na? If you don't, no problem. No, do not have regrets. Yes. 1751. It was a treaty signed between Marathas and Ali Vardi Khan. Treaty of 1751. Hai. See, then we have the, again, joined, Warren Hastings joined at the age of 18. There, it cannot be a statement for your prelims. This is common sense. I just want you to understand his joining very early. Almost all of them. William Bentinck will be joining, becoming a member of parliament in Britain at the age of 22. These are certain unique experience. That means, if you learn about Dadabhai Naoroji, you will find that he presided over INC session twice. Right. He was a member of the Imperial Legislative Council. Number of factual information. That is definitely only, or you can find it when you look for in the internet. Or the Azad, the 75 years of independence, there are certain important entries. You will find these information. These information are there in the Tamil NCRTs, right? And they are specifically collected from there, and UPSC is definitely looking at it as well, right? Foundation of Asiatic Society of Bengal. Who was the founder of Asiatic Society of Bengal? William Jones, 1784. Again, associated with First Anglo-Maratha War and the Treaty of Salwai. Board of Revenue was set up. Board of Revenue was primarily for the collection of revenue, to oversee the collection of revenue. Two persons actually worked on the Board of Revenue. One was Warren Hastings, another one Cornwallis. Who was the first? Warren Hastings. That is why it is written. You look for clues. इसी को तुम लोग rote learning. Just mug it up. Only this. And then you will work on them. Na? In future, maybe you will add more, or you will be only keeping it here itself. If you are lucky, because these are the most important ones. Again, with our common sense, we have tried to collect them. No? Again, Hindu and Muslim laws were redefined, starting of Diwali and Faujdari Adalat. Diwani, that is civil, Faujdari, that is criminal. Here you can understand there are Indian judges. During Cornwallis, Indian judges will be gradually being replaced. Indian judges will be only there in the lower courts, in the bottom level. But the beginning of Diwani and Faujdari court, remember during the period of Warren Hastings. Here, collectors and other revenue officials. Collector for the collection of revenue, also in some cases judicial functions. During Cornwallis, the judicial functions will be taken away. Collector will be only responsible for collection of revenue and nothing to do with the judicial functions. Yes. See, Supreme Court of India was given the responsibility to try British officials. The Indian judges or the courts were not ready. There was nothing that could prosecute a British committing a crime or corruption in India. That is another reason for the establishment of Supreme Court. Though there were a lot of grey areas. It was not clearly defined at that point. Yes? Ilbert Bill, that is a different. Ilbert Bill during Ripon 1883-84 is a different issue. I will discuss that. Wait for a while. That is altogether different. You might have mistaken or got confused. As an altogether different, it is coming more than a century later. Do not worry about that here. Na? I will explain Ilbert Bill. Then Charles Wilkins translated Gita. When is now very important. If I say Arthashastra, when was it actually coming into the market? When was it deciphered and translated and it was enjoyed by the masses? As late as 1905. Arthashastra was deciphered and came into existence 1905. When was Bhagavad Gita translated? 1785. Right, remember that. Again, codification. There is about Hellhead somewhere. Do you find the law book, streamlining of law book somewhere written? Is there anywhere written the Hindu code, the Gentoo laws? Where is it written? I cannot find. Yes, and there. Achha, I have written it later. You will find that, no problem. First Chief Justice Elijah Impey, Calcutta Supreme Court. Revenue reforms, I have explained what the revenue reforms are. After the abolishing of dual system. Warren Hastings associated with the establishment of quinquennial system. Also experimental, you see, 5-year settlements, quinquennial system. Reorganization of the judicial system. Right, each district was provided with civil code under a collector and a criminal court under an Indian judge. Later on this will not be done. During Cornwallis this will change. To hear appeals from the appellate court from the district. 2 appellate courts were there. For civil cases, that is Sadar Diwani, and for criminal cases, that will be Sadar Nizamat. It is mentioned, right? Sadar Diwani presided over governor and 2 judges from the members of his Governor General's Council. For the criminal, that is Nizamat, there was Indian judge appointed by Governor General in Council. An English translation of the Code of Hindu laws, Gentoo laws, that is done by Halhed. Remember the name. Again, it's a gap that needs to be fulfilled. Read that. It is very lucid, clear language. Whenever I faced that this is a question or terminology the students might be facing, I have added the clarity as note or somewhere. So you will be facing confusion. That means you do not have to find or Google. I encourage though. I encourage. The handout is available to download. Dekho Ashish, it will be available for download. No? I do not know whether you download or not. You can download your. Acha, in the website itself, you can access the documents and then you can make notes of it. Acha, fine. It is maybe for some, again, copyright infringement, for protection of data, all these things. So maybe that is the case. I would definitely request Ashish. We are in our prime. We have read a lot of books. Still, we scribble. Still, we write on a regular basis. I know it for a fact that you will remember nothing if you just listen to the lectures. It is for your own good. We sometimes compromise. If nobody is writing, we say that no problem, it is all right for you not to write. But still today, if I am reading a book, I will always have a pen in my hand. Still today, even if I read a non-fiction or a fiction rather, I will also be making certain notes. I will find a word I do not know the meaning, and I have seen important scholars, again we are nobodies, I've seen important Nobel laureates, scholars, they also do the same. See, making notes is the right approach. It is the right academic behavior. Na? So that is the Hastings also participated in the Rohilla War. What is Rohilla War? I have explained, 1774. So at that point, it's a small kingdom. They faced certain problems from the Marathas and they approached Awadh region and for protection. Marathas never attacked and Rohillas never paid Awadh for protection money. Naturally, with the help of the British, Awadh attacked Rohillas. And Hastings will be criticized because of Rohilla War. It is mentioned here. You just read about it. Probably that means who are the Rohillas, it was asked in your prelims. Thereby we have added certain information. Even I have explained Rohilla kingdom kahan tha, Farrukhabad, where is it located. These were the territories ruled by the Afghans. You might be remembering from the early lectures. That is the Rohilla affair. Again, 87, Hastings was also impeached in the parliament. He was acquitted later. Right, 12 charges against him. Burke actually brought forward 22 charges. And he was later acquitted. And he received pension from the company till 1818. Now is Cornwallis. I have explained Cornwallis during the permanent settlement. Powerful figure. And he was associated with the siege of Yorktown. That is 1781, followed by completion of American War of Independence. Here again he participated in the American War. That means he sided with the British basically. He was a very dear friend of Prime Minister Pitt and also Henry Dundas. Henry Dundas is a powerful figure, influential member of the Board of Control. You can remember by Pitt's India Act of 1784. Court of Directors and Board of Control, they will start interfering in the affairs of East India Company in India. Right, Court of Directors, body of the company, and Board of Control, a representative of the Parliament. So they are interfering. I will discuss the constitutional development as well. Now he was a friend of both the sides, right? And now he will come to India as the Governor General of Bengal. Also, Pitt's India Act of 1784 will be modified. He will be receiving a lot of power, so that he ensures victory in the Third Anglo-Mysore War, 1790 to 94. I have explained that before. Parliament, extraordinary legal powers, right? And it was added to amendment of the Pitt's India Act. Pitt's India Act is 1784, amendment in 1786. Fine. His, again, good fortune, he excellent team of subordinates, John Shore. Why John Shore was important? Here itself you try to cover. John Shore. Very good. His opinion laid the foundation of permanent settlement. He argued that the landlord should be accepted as the absolute owner. That is the idea of John Shore. John Shore's Minute, when was it published? 1789. Followed by the establishment of decennial settlement in 1790. And decennial settlement will be declared as permanent settlement in 1793. Then is James Grant. Who was James Grant? Very good. Very good. Company should be the owner of the land. And William Jones. Who was William Jones? A scholar and later a very important judge. Jones was responsible for the establishment of Asiatic Society of Bengal, 1784. Then purification of civil service on the basis of separation of power. He is associated with the Cornwallis Code on the philosophy of Montesquieu. It is all written here. Na? Persuaded the directors of the company to pay handsome salaries, increase salary, decrease of corruption. Right, again he started to initiate meritocracy. Still meritocracy will not be initiated. He made some arrangements. It was not very successful. Collectors, again collectors had become concentration of power. He will take away the power. Judicial functions and only responsible for revenue functions. Again judicial functions. Services of William Jones, as I have argued before. Under the judicial reforms, who was a judge and a great scholar, civil and criminal courts were completely reorganized. Previously, Indian judges were involved. You will see the Indian judges, their position is decreased. See, Sadar Diwani Adalat and Sadar Nizamat were functioning at Calcutta. Both of them were presided over by Governor General and his council. That means the executive over judiciary. This is a step you can understand. Cornwallis wanted to take command of everything. 4 provincial courts of appeal at Calcutta, Dhaka, Murshidabad and Patna, with 3 European judges assisted by Indian advisors now. Indian judges gradually will be pushed away from the picture. Now for your clarity, Indian judges were allowed in civil cases from 1836 onwards, 1830s onwards, right? But definitely not in criminal cases, especially regarding citizenship, questions of deportation and citizenship of Europeans, and also in murder cases, criminal cases. In those cases, Indian judges were not involved, where Europeans were involved. That is why Ilbert Bill recommended. That is a different issue. Do not get confused there. I will explain it later. Again, district judges were appointed. See, Indian judges or munsifs appointed to all the courts at bottom of the judicial system. That means Cornwallis, he considered the Indians to be substandard, less competent. And you can understand the Europeization. That means a rather kind of dominance of the whites in the top tiers of the administration that will be done during Cornwallis. We are saying that meritocracy, but here meritocracy for the whites. We are not saying that he will let go of discrimination. He was discriminatory. There is no doubt there. Right? He considered basically the Indians to be substandard, that is highly corrupt and so on. Again, his colleague was George Barlow. He prepared a comprehensive code known as Cornwallis Code. Remember George Barlow. You will be remembering Cornwallis Code. You will probably not be remembering Barlow. All right, for a brief period, of course, yes. And Barlow was a close associate, was shaping the Cornwallis Code, right? On the basis of ideas of Montesquieu, that is separation of powers. Police reforms, again, what is the Thana? Thana is headed by Daroga, all that has been associated here. Again, Marquess of Wellesley, that is 1798 to 1805. Marquess of Wellesley. We have given information as to the conditions of subsidiary alliance. And why was subsidiary alliance? Again, looking at the threats from nearby to India and outside of India. At that point, there was the fear from the Afghans as well. There was a fear from the French attack as well. And East India Company did not have a large standing army. It was a very expensive job. Thereby, they started promising the princely states that we will protect you. In exchange, you have to sign a treaty. Take care of our army. That means, what is the primary agenda of subsidiary alliance? To maintain the army of the British East India Company at the expense of Indian princely states. That is the rationale behind subsidiary alliance. It was asked in your prelims. Yes. What is? Ring fence policy you have found specifically in spectrum. There is no typical question that can be asked. Ring fence policy, that means you create a fence around you, that's it. For example, the understanding of ring fence can be done during Warren Hastings. You can understand during even during Clive as well. See, basically when dual system was established, you can find Treaty of Allahabad that was signed with the Mughals and Awadh. You can understand territorial acquisition of Awadh was not done. British used Awadh as a buffer between the Maratha territory and Bengal. They took over the territorial control of Bengal and created a ring fence with that of Awadh. That means they wanted free trade right with Awadh and use it as a buffer state. That is a kind of ring fence. Subsidiary alliance is basically maintain your army at the expense of the princely states. That means is the company directly wanting, under the policies of subsidiary alliance, you are wanting money from the princely states? No. You are wanting maintenance of army. That is more strategic than economic. The rationale, reasoning of subsidiary alliance, it is more strategic. Security requirements rather than economic. It is not for economic opportunity. You are just maintaining your army. You are maintaining a regular troop at the expense of princely state. Also try to understand subsidiary alliance. Was it designed because of Napoleonic attacks? Yes. Because of the threat of Napoleon. Napoleon was dominating the land area. That means from continental Europe, they could cross the portions of West Asia and attack India. When it comes to Britain, it is written in later writings of Nehru, everyone. Nobody had the power to defeat Britain in sea. But they could, if anybody could, was France, but in land. Thereby they wanted to strengthen their army in land. Thereby the subsidiary alliance was devised. First state to sign the subsidiary alliance, what will it be? Tell me. Hyderabad. Nizam Ali. Northwest, Zaman Shah. Zaman Shah was an Afghan. Zaman Shah Durrani. And also the Napoleon Bonaparte, right? The policy of neutrality adopted by John Shore. Remember, these are some of the information I have found. Policy of paramountcy. This was the policy adopted by Hastings. It is there in Placido partition. These are important textbooks. Again, I'm not saying that there cannot be questions from Spectrum. It is a good book. It is a great book. But the policies I have mentioned, it is acknowledged by important historians. That definitely can be asked. I'm saying policy of, where did I write? Neutrality. Who adopted that? Policy of John Shore. Again, if I say policy of subsidiary alliance, policy of Wellesley. Again, policy of paramountcy, policy of Lord Hastings. I have added these points in your notes. Now you will try to remember them. They are opinions of important historians. You may find it in the prelims. Again, it's a difficult question. Probably you will not be aware that whose policy is that, right? Next is molded the policy. I have given information regarding the subsidiary alliance. Right, they will be known as the protected state and hereafter referred to as the paramount power. The British will be referred to as the paramount power. Further work during policy of paramountcy. And finally, during Dalhousie, that is doctrine of lapse. The British will exercise further control over the protected state. These are the conditions of Dalhousie. I will explain that later. Remember these two conditions. Under the subsidiary alliance, the Indian state signatory will be known as protected state and the British hereinafter will be referred to as the paramount power. The control of the paramount power will be further exercised under the policy of paramountcy adopted by Lord Hastings. Later should give some money or give part of his territory. That means income from that territory will be used. Then should cut off connection with European powers other than the English. That means which power are they directing? French. You see Treaty of Deogaon, Surji Anjangaon, Rajpur Ghat, they are all subsidiary allies. That means the Marathas were clearly instructed that you cannot make any treaty with the British anymore. That means your relationship, with the French anymore. Your relationship with the French ends here. Then ruler of the protected state should keep a British resident at his court and disband his own army. He should not employ Europeans at his service without the sanction of the paramount power. That is British. Right. Lord Hastings, known as Francis Edward Rawdon Hastings. That is why often you have only heard about Lord Hastings. And as Marquess of Hastings, also known as Marquess or first Marquess of Hastings. Remember Francis or F.E.R. Hastings. Other than another one is Warren Hastings. The tenure is 14 to 23. His policy is known as policy of paramountcy. I have mentioned that. Intervention and war. A lot of war will be done. For example, Third Anglo-Maratha War. Right. Abolition of Peshwaship. Creation of Bombay Presidency. Introduction of Rayatwari settlement associated with Lord Hastings as well. But who was the governor of Madras at that point? Thomas Munro. It is there in your copy. Strife with the Pindaris. It is a part associated with Third Anglo-Maratha War. Establishment of Rayatwari by Munro, governor of Madras. That is all. Then is William Bentinck, 28 to 35. 74 birth, not important. 22, at the age of 22, somewhere written. Became the member of parliament, appointed as the governor of Madras in 1803. These are some information again to just put you off guard. You will be aware that he was here in India only between 28 and 35. He was already the governor as early as 1803. He supported Munro, Thomas Munro, on revenue administration as well. Munro was associated with Rayatwari. Vellore mutiny, a kind of a mutiny with the soldiers, 1806, resulted in Bentinck's recall. Right, again friendship of Ranjit Singh, also death of Ranjit Singh. Death of Ranjit Singh will be happening later. Death of Ranjit Singh will be happening in 1839. He is not contemporary to the death. No? Indus navigation treaty with the Sindh. Basically what will happen is that Sindh will be used primarily for navigation and commerce and will be violated during first Anglo-Afghan war. If you read the Anglo-Afghan war, this particular treaty was violated. Thereby there was confrontation between Sindh and British. Amirs of Sindh also done. Mysore, I have explained this story, rendition of Mysore. Basically, the Mysore territory that was restored under the previous Wadiyar dynasty. Previously during 1792, that means who will be the Governor General? Wellesley. Now it will be taken away by Bentinck from the Wadiyar dynasty. And once again returned back during the period of Ripon. That is known as rendition of Ripon. Right. I hope you remember this story. याद है ना? एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रिफॉर्म्स पर्टिकुलरली कुछ है नहीं. कोर्ट्स ऑफ अपील कॉर्नवालिस के दौरान अगेन मैकाउले इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर एस्टैब्लिशमेंट ऑफ द क्रिमिनल लॉज, बट इट विल बी एक्चुअली एप्लीकेबल इन 1860, introduced as early as the 30s. Here itself Indian judges were allowed in civil cases, so that was some positive development during the period of Bentinck. Right, there is some information. Again, I have discussed about the Mahalwari system, RM Bird. We have discussed that, you added with Bentinck. Right, social reforms, again we have talked about Sati. I might have added, yes. Regulation Act of 17 December 1829, prohibiting practice of Sati. In 1830, it was introduced and extended to Madras and Bombay. We have already covered that. So that is there in the handout. Suppression of Thuggy, we have also covered that. Also female infanticide, again also deposited in Sagar Island, Bengal, Ganga Sagar. That is we have already covered, that is also during Bentinck. Introduction of English education, we have also covered that. That is Macaulay's Minute on Education, 1835. Right. Then comes Dalhousie. Again we have covered Dalhousie separately, basically. Youngest Governor General of India while he assumed charge at the age of 36 in 1848. Again, it can be important trivia. We do not know whether it will be asked in prelims or not, but nonetheless you can choose to remember. Youngest Governor General. Right. And studied at Christ Church, Oxford, Member of Parliament, enjoyed confidence of Robert Peel, the Prime Minister of England. Right. And progress of railway construction in England as Lord Dalhousie. That is Dalhousie's famous Minute on Railways, led to the foundation of establishment of railway in India, right? Arrived in India January 1848. Doctrine of lapse I have explained. You probably are aware about doctrine of lapse. तो इसकी लिस्ट के बारे में पता है? You remember the sequence of countries? You have missed out Bhagat. No, Awadh was not on the charges of doctrine of lapse. It's a trap, remember that. Awadh was not annexed on charges of doctrine of lapse. इसके सीक्वेंस के बारे में सतारा, it starts with Satara the first and Jhansi the last. Right, if you do not have any male right successor, your territory, that means if you want to adopt, you have to take permission of the British. British generally will not give the permission. It was a tool, basically. He saw that so many territories without any male successor. If I have a policy as such, no matter how bizarre it sounds, I can take away the territory. That is the rationale behind doctrine of lapse. Then, Jhansi, Nagpur were annexed in 1854. Then large part of central province came under the British rule. And finally, his annexation was Awadh on charges of misgovernance, not on charges of doctrine of lapse. New provinces were governed by Chief Commissioner from 1861. Railways. I have given you what is the public guarantee system. I have explained it in the class. During the finance capitalism, European finance capitalism. So I have given you the notes for that. What is the guarantee system? Every data. You have to read them. Focus, if you are unaware, you read them. I have added the railway tracks. First between Bombay and Thane, then Raniganj, Calcutta. Then finally Madras to Arakonam. There is a third track. First track, Western India. Second track, Eastern India. Third track, Southern India. Madras to Arakonam. Again, UPSC will not be probably interested in Bombay to Thane. Will be more interested in Calcutta, Raniganj and Madras to Arakonam in 1856. This is where the focus presently is. Remember telegraph 1854. O. Shaugasi was the appointed superintendent of telegraph department, right? 4,000 miles of telegraph connecting Calcutta, Peshawar, Bombay, Madras. Right, modern postal system laid down by Dalhousie. A new Post Office Act 1854. Again, these are important steps. He introduced the stamps. Half Anna per stamp. Anna, you understand? Anna? Attorney. What is that? Anna, what is Anna? Yes, that means 16 Anna, 1 rupees. Fine, that is Anna. Half Anna a piece. That means you add it to a letter, it will travel distance. That is Post Office Act, introduction of stamps. Postage stamps were introduced for the first time. That is information for the prelims, remember that. Education we have already covered. That is known as the Intellectual Charter of India. Dalhousie's, Wood's Dispatch. It is known as Magna Carta of English Education in India. That is Intellectual Charter of India, right? Remember that public works previously done by the militaries. He established the public works department. He is compared to Firooz Shah Tughlaq, later Indira Gandhi. Number of works were done during these leaders. Laid the foundation of engineering services in India. First engineering college, that is Roorkee. First medical college, Calcutta, 1835 Christian Medical College. Then first agricultural university, we call it Pusa. There was an earthquake. Pusa was established in 1905, right? And during an earthquake in 1934, it was shifted to Delhi. That is all about the governors and governor general. You read about them, right? Go through them in your handout. If you have any queries, you go through, browse, and I will answer. I'll give you a brief pause. So generally, you do not do it by handouts because you told you had difficulties. I had given you the नोट्स ना. इफ ऐसे ही तुम लोग को जब भी प्रॉब्लम आएगा कोई चैप्टर के साथ, कोई हैंडआउट तुम्हें चाहिए, यू लेट मी नो, राइट? Go through them if you have any clarity required. Ashish and the rest of the company. Acha, it is now available to download. All right. Done. No problems. Can we get a handout of social? Himangi, you will find it in the spectrum itself. It is very elaborately covered. If you want any particular observation of mine, that means I do not know. If you want any particular assistance from my side, I can help you out. You have to explain in what account you need that. Spectrum has covered it very comprehensively. I do not think so that there can be something better done. And always, Himangi, use one question mark. It is absolutely, you have written 3 question marks. Three question marks is medical emergency, or I will be next sent to prison. I have done some heinous act. Yes? Yes? ये तो पता नहीं, I am not aware as of now. What are you saying? I'm not getting. I am completely unaware. Did you get your? Acha, you will be intimated tomorrow. Acha, fine. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you will be getting different classes, or maybe you will finish the entire segment of modern India. It depends. If that is, we feel that you need a break from the continuation of modern India, we do not know. Or you, it seems that you do not want the modern India classes to continue. Acha, all right. Acha, all right. Let's see. Let's see. Acha. A lot of plannings are going on, right? For you to finish the syllabus exactly in time. The tests have to be organized. It is not about one, and see, there are so many responsibilities. If you are actually pushed in that situation, you will understand what are the diverse hundreds of challenges that is going on. We are trying to deliver the best, and there we are facing challenges. Na? Dekho, our next chapter is Revolt of 1857. Revolt of 1857. Again, we look for the causes or the platform. Then we'll discuss about again the series of events leading to the revolt. It is not at all associated. Acha, Himangi is asking who did the suppression of Thagi. Do you remember Sleeman? SLWMAN. It should be there. It in the handout as well. Handout mein hai, check karo to. Handout mein read the handout. You will find it there. Sleeman, also referred to as Thagi Sleeman. Right, causes of the platform, we will look at leadership or the geographical extent and significance or impact. Significance or impact. These are the primary elements that will be coming in handy for your prelims. There is important books, important literary works, or journals associated with revolt of 1857, right? We'll discuss about them. Acha, by the way, in the recent paper conducted by geoscientists, we have a list. Again, it came from the notes itself. For UPSC as well, there are very limited number of literature that you can remember. If I ask you the question, the text, Asabab-e-Baghawat-e Hind, who was the author? Anyone? Asabab-e-Baghawat-e Hind. The author was Sayyid Ahmad Khan. It literally means causes behind the revolt of 1857. Achha, do one thing. I will dictate the name of the books. Na? Likho to zara, I feel that it will come in handy. If you have not done before, I will help you out here. Na? Write a couple of books. Write down important books on revolt of 1857. Write down the first Indian War of Independence, the first Indian War of Independence, the first Indian War of Independence, comma, 1857 to 59, 1857 to 59, 1857 to 59. It was published in 1859. It was published in 1859. It was published in 1859, authored by Karl Marx. Authored by Karl Marx. It was a contemporary literature, please remember that. Then another book is Asabab-e-Baghawat-e Hind. इसका स्पेलिंग लिख देता हूँ ना. Asabab-e-Baghawat-e-Hind. 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 It means causes behind the revolt of 1857 or causes of Indian revolt. Causes of Indian revolt. That means Asabab-e-Baghawat-e-Hind. Then it was written in, it was published in, एक बार चेक कर लेना ज़रा, when was it published? It seems 1859 itself. एक बार चेक कर लेना इसको, please check it. Asabab-e-Baghawat-e-Hind. Then there is Asabab-e-Baghawat-e-Hind. मैं एक बार देख लेता हूँ ना. Yes, who was the author? Sayyid Ahmad Khan. Sayyid Ahmad Khan. 1859? All right, no problem. Done. We are correct. 1859. Then the Indian War of Independence. The Indian War of Independence. The Indian War of Independence. The Indian War of Independence, 1909, published in 1909 by V.D. Savarkar. 1909 by V.D. Savarkar. Is a very interesting heading, that is the Sepoy Mutiny and the Rebellion of 1857. Next book is the Sepoy Mutiny. That means they are argued that they are different. The Sepoy Mutiny and the Rebellion of 1857. The Sepoy Mutiny and the Rebellion of 1857. The Sepoy Mutiny and the Rebellion of 1857. Published in 1963. Published in 1963 by R.C. Majumdar. By R.C. Majumdar. 63. Published in 1963 by R.C. Majumdar. Then Rebellion, 1857. Rebellion, 1857. A Symposium. Rebellion, 1857. A Symposium. Spelling Symposium. A Symposium. That is 1957. Published in 1957 by P.C. Joshi. Published by P.C. Joshi. 1957, that is published by P.C. Joshi. Fine. These are the books. Try to remember them. Na? Again, you need to remember about the important leadership, geographical extent. For example, I ask the question, bizarre question, that means that can be important for your prelims. If I ask you, who was the leader from Assam? Who was the leader from Assam who led the revolt from Assam during revolt of 1857? What will the answer? Anyone? My online students. Remember Mani Ram Barua. Mani Ram Barua was leading from Assam. Again, a kind of interesting trivia. If I ask you the question, who led the movement from Haryana? Who was the one who led the movement from Haryana? Yes, answer will be Rao Tularam. Remember that. Rao Tularam. Rao Tularam. Again, these are very, very important information. Rao Tularam definitely can be definitely a person who is aware. Suppose you might be very popular trivia in BPSC, a number of questions, a number of times have been asked. The Lion of Bihar from Jagdishpur, Ara, Kunwar Singh, is a very popular fact. Assam, there is Maniram Barua. Maniram Barua. Maniram Barua. From Barakpur, Bengal, that is Mangal Pandey. From Bihar, that is Kunwar Singh, right? From Haryana, that is Rao Tularam. Rao Tularam. Tularam. Rao Tularam from Haryana. Then if I ask you who was from Delhi? One will be Bahadur Shah Zafar. Another will be Bakht Khan. Bakht Khan was the commander of the Mughal army. I do not call him a puppet, but yes, a number of scholars argue that he was disinterested. When the... Why would you say that? He was very much interested, but not initially he was interested. He will write some heartfelt letters. That is what we are made to believe. He will talk on communal harmony, he will talk about support from the erstwhile principalities. So we can say that in the initial stage he was rather disinterested. In the later on he will. There is something known as the Azamgarh Declaration, 25th of August 1857. That is, today I was browsing and I found a brilliant trivia. You asked me a prelims. Azamgarh Declaration was for everybody. That means what, why they should participate in the revolt. That means that will help you understand the true pan-India character, the ideas of nationalism within a revolt. The British immediately, the contemporary literature tried to underplay the magnitude of the event by showcasing that it is only local and mutiny of the sepoys. It was much more. By looking at the Azamgarh Declaration, you find out that is what later V.D. Savarkar tried to argue as well. The British tried to downplay the intensity of the movement. They tried to overpower. There are important paintings. The British lion dominating the Bengal tiger. I was looking at it. They tried to project that it was hurting the pride of women, and women were fighting for their honor. And burly looking, grotesque, demonized sepoys were coming to dishonor them. This is how they tried to create a propaganda. Again, Azamgarh Declaration, you have to remember that. Achha, who was the leader from Mathura? Devi Singh. Leader from Mathura was Devi Singh. Achha, who was the leader from Lucknow? Begum Hazrat Mahal. Who was the leader from Kanpur? Who was the leader from Kanpur? Nana Sahib. Who was the leader from Gwalior? Tatia Tope. Leader from Gwalior was Tatia Tope. From Karnataka, you can remember in the memory of Rani Chennamma. Rani Chennamma, that is a beautiful story. Rani Chennamma's territory was taken away much before than that of the doctrine of lapse. Before doctrine of lapse was ever introduced, the territory was taken away, the territory in Karnataka. What will happen is that during the protests, the people will rebel. And Chennamma was no longer participating, she died. But the movement was led in the memory of Rani Chennamma. A beautiful story there. So that is about the participation, important leadership and their participation in the... Previously, the European general involved in suppression, this was asked in 30 years before. Again, in today's time, it is highly unlikely it will be asked. So probably it will not be asked. Again, but the new NCERTs cover some indirect information. Right. What are the causes? Again, for the causes, you need to remember about important trivia that can be there in prelims. We are not going to discuss the causes. Very cliched topic. I just want you to understand, mutiny of the sepoys. Was it the first and isolated incident, or there were mutinies of the sepoys before? That is again a conceptual clarity for prelims. A revolt of 1857 was the first rejection of the British Raj by the Indian sepoys. Correct statement, false statement? Yes? False statement. Very good. Throughout in Java, in Bengal, in multiple cases, beginning from 19th century. There were a number of rebellions of the sepoys. The climax should be visible in the form of revolt of 1857. Again, if I ask you the question, what is General Services Enlistment Act? 1856. General Services Enlistment Act. Acha, general services and you are right, but you are saying, hmm? Hey, you are talking about you want to tell your own story. I'm just asking. No problem. Yes, right selection of terms. Na? That means mandatory services overseas. Mandatory services of Indian sepoys overseas. That means the fear of Kalapani. When was General Services Enlistment Act introduced? 1856. Also, the military causes. Again, Bhata was cancelled. What is Bhatta? Bhatta. Bhatta. Bhatta is allowances. Yes, you are right. Bhatta is a kind of allowance entitled to the Indian sepoys. The Sikh forces did not take it, thereby in the Bengal army that was also taken away. Right? These are some of the important acts, that mean development that will lead to. Again, Awadh was directly involved in revolt of 1857. See, Awadh was annexed in 1856 on charges of misgovernance. The ruler was Wajid Ali Shah. Wajid Ali Shah was felt by the British, was thought that he was very unpopular, but he was a very popular leader. Though he was not involved in administration, he was deeply respected by all. It is understood from the fact that when Wajid Ali was deported to Calcutta, all the citizens walked the distance from Lucknow to Kanpur. It's a phenomenal. जो distance है between Lucknow से Kanpur का 80 किलोमीटर का है. They covered the entire distance, showing their commitment to their sultan. Also, during Wajid Ali Shah, what will happen is that the administrative officers, they are known as talukdars, they will become very, very powerful because king was less interested in administration. The British immediately after the expansion introduced summary settlement in Awadh. What is summary settlement? You can remember it from the perspective of prelims. Here, the talukdars were accepted as intermediaries. Talukdars were accepted, that means they are interlopers. Their traditional rights were taken away and the British made direct arrangements with the peasants, leading to immediate chaos. That means what? Traditionally, talukdars are enjoying the tax privileges, everything, administrative, economic power. British neglected the talukdars and made arrangements with the kisans, the peasants. Now tell me, the peasants, who will they be accountable to? Talukdar or the British? Talukdar. You do not want change. You want the previous things to continue. That means the peasant, that is actually the trinkets that will help you understand the logic of nationalism. Na? It was the new administrator, they did not look up to the new administrator. They want the restoration of the past. So what is summary settlement introduced by the British? It is a kind of land revenue settlement. What is to be understood regarding summary settlement? Talukdars were acknowledged as interlopers or intermediaries. एक लाइन लिखो तो जरा summary settlement, you write it down. जो बात मैं कर रहा हूँ समझ पा रहे हो ना? Are you able to connect all what we are saying ना? This is haphazard because you have already heard about the causes. We are just trying to, my level best, to give you certain factual information. Those which probably out of touch or you need brush ups or need fresh content. Write down, after the annexation of Awadh by the British, after the complete annexation of the British, after the complete annexation of Awadh by British, summary settlement was introduced. Summary settlement was introduced. Full stop. Under the new summary settlement, talukdars were accepted as interlopers, that is intermediaries. Talukdars were accepted as interlopers / intermediaries. Talukdars were accepted as interlopers / intermediaries. and the British made direct arrangements, and the British made direct arrangements, and the British made direct arrangements with the peasants. Made direct arrangements with the peasants, thereby taking away traditional rights, thereby taking away traditional rights, thereby taking away traditional rights of talukdars. This is about summary settlement. These are some of the very important details, right? You remember about Azamgarh Declaration, right? I feel that it can be asked in your prelims. Right, these are the important causes that will trigger, right? Doctrine of lapse will be a reason. Again, this is another important trivia that during canning it was agreed that Bahadur Shah Zafar will be the last Mughal emperor, effectively meaning that his successors will be known as princes. That is plural of prince. Do not say Disney princess. Yes, they will be known as prince and not as emperor, effectively meaning that the British is actually willing to take over the Mughal empire. That means naturally this was the reason. Indirectly, the wards of Mughals were unhappy, and the father will be interested in what is happening with his empire. So we cannot say Bahadur Shah Zafar was completely disinterested. Though it is also true that when the British actually came for the siege to capture Bahadur Shah Zafar, he did not leave. When asked upon, he said that the person who was associated to bring my slippers is gone. Thereby I did not leave. मुझे चप्पल पहनाने वाला वो चला गया था, मुझे चप्पल पहन नहीं पाया, नहीं तो मैं चला जाता. नहीं आया समझ में. When the British actually came, तो पूछा कि आप भागे क्यों नहीं? तो बोला कि मैं नंगे पैर चलूँगा नहीं, मुझे चप्पल पहनाने वाला चला गया था. तो बस इसी वजह मैंने गया नहीं. That means this is the. Did you get the story? Did you get it? No. No, you did not get the story. I mean, a king, lavish, the man of royalty, dignity. That means when the British said that, why didn't you run away? You should have run away, right? He said that I was about to run away, but my servant was gone. Generally, my servant makes me wear my slippers. He was gone, thereby I could not wear my slippers. And if I did not wear the slippers, I cannot run away. That's the excuse of Zafar. Anyways, that means you will understand the royalty of India, the Mughals, right? Acha, what happened during general services? Himangi, I just explained what happened during Royal General Services Enlistment Act. Tell me. What happened during general service? तब तो तुम लोग भी फिर अलग नहीं हो. You are no different than her. What happened during General Services Enlistment Act 1856? The Indian soldiers were forced to, that means forceful services overseas. They had to, that means previously they were only operating in India, the Indian subcontinent. Now they had to give services, mandatory services overseas, in Malay Peninsula, in different places, crossing the sea. For any Hindu, crossing the sea was crossing the Kalapani. That means you lose your religious identity. Thereby, General Services Enlistment Act was understood by the Hindus as an attempt to take away the religious identity. That means for the British, it is just an act, and everybody is treated equal. And you have to forcefully now operate overseas. Previously, the British respected the social and the religious traditions of the Indians. But this time, especially after the Second Anglo-Sikh War, the Sikhs incorporated in the army. They preferred langar, that means co-dining. Previously, the Bengal army, they did not prefer co-dining. Majorly, soldiers are bhumihars, Moguls are Brahmins. These soldiers are, that means social elites. They will maintain the idea of pollution and purity. That is an Indian societal custom. And the British now forced them to mix with others. It was attempted or seen as an encroachment towards converting them to Christianity. That means a threat to their religion. That is what you can understand by General Services Enlistment Act. Fine. That is all. आज के लिए इतना ही. Was it forced recruitment? No, it is not forced recruitment. अरे तुम लोग कहाँ गड़बड़ हो रहा है मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा. General Services Enlistment Act. It is an act, you understand. By this act, any soldier who is already recruited in the army, now they have to be serving overseas, mandatory service. You have to go. Previously, they were not forced to go overseas. Na? It is not recruitment. It is not forced recruitment. It is forced service, which involved crossing the sea. I hope you understood. If you need further clarity, you can let me know. Fine. That is it. We will start. We have a brief history of 100 years. We will start in the next class. There is nothing much. I will give you a list. You write it down. You will prepare them accordingly, right? You will learn about number 1, pre-Congress political organizations. You will make notes about that. Pre-Congress political organizations. This is your first objective. I will give you certain MCQs regarding that. Again, it is an area where you can expect questions, especially in the recent trend of UPSC. You have to cover them in details. The founder, political agenda, some stories involved. Search the internet for clues. Then we will look at formation of INC. Formation of INC. And important INC sessions. Important INC sessions. If you want assistance from my side, I can help you out. If you want to do it on your own, you're more than welcome. Go to the official site of Congress. You'll find a lot of data. Read them elaborately. Starting from 1885 till 1948, Jaipur session. The journey will be from 1885 to 1948. And the moderate phase. I do not think so. I can cover much more. Moderate phase. Moderate phase. That means precisely 1885 to beginning of 1900s. That is a moderate phase of INC. This is your assignment for your next class. I do not know if you have class on Monday or not. In your next class, we will begin with that, right? Any questions, doubts you need any clarity on? I will cover the impact. I need to give you constitutional details. Remind me, I will talk about the impact of revolt of 1857. You read from any standard textbook. For example, go through the new NCERT of modern India and read about the chapter of revolt of 1857. You will find so many important clues. Na? That's it. आज के लिए इतना ही.